So you're ready to roll with some starts at the running back position?
Always, my friend.
That's what we do. Come on now.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's start off with Devonta Freeman. I told you to fade him last week. He gave you a stinker. Play him this week against the Jaguars. They've allowed 7 total touchdowns and the most fantasy points to running backs over the last 4 weeks, including 4 top 12 running backs. I'm also starting Marlon Mack. I mean, he's disappeared basically in terms of his statistical success, but he's got a great matchup against the Panthers. They've allowed a top 11 fantasy running back in 6 of their last 7 games, Cole. So Mack, at worst, is a flex starter. My sleeper this week is Mike Boone. Now, keep tabs on the status, of course, of Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison. But if Boone is the guy on Monday night, he's got a good matchup against the Packers. They've allowed the 7th most fantasy points to running backs since week 9.
Yeah, week 15, Boone had 13 rushes. That's good news for all of his owners. How about some guys that you're sitting, Fabs?
I'm keeping David Montgomery on my bench simply because I just don't trust him. If you look at his numbers, I mean, he has failed to exploit good matchups for most of the season. He scored fewer than 7 fantasy points per game over the last several weeks. And this is a matchup here against the Kansas City Chiefs. That defense is playing well. I think Tariq Cohen is a better play than David Montgomery in this contest. And Devin Singletary, another rookie. Now, he's getting more opportunities. He's getting more snaps and more touches. So maybe because of volume, he's a flex starter. But this is a bad matchup against the Patriots. They have given up the fewest touchdowns and the fewest fantasy points to running backs. So Singletary could give you a stinker.
Yeah, he's been running back 25 since week 10, so heed Fab's advice. Now let's talk about some wideouts because I need a pair of pass catchers who will get you to that promised land.
And I've got that for you. And Tyler Boyd, his numbers lately have sort of been up and down, but I really like the matchup this week. He's in a really good spot against the Dolphins. They have been among the worst teams in the National Football League at stopping the slot. In fact, no team in the league has given up more touchdowns to slot receivers. So with A.J. Green out and Auden Tate also out, this is a very strong play. And I also like Terry McLaurin. A couple of weeks ago, I was down on him, not because he's not good, but because his quarterback was playing badly. But he's back in our good graces now. 24 points last week. He gets the Giants this week. They've given up 11 touchdowns and nearly 25 fantasy points per game to perimeter receivers. So McLaurin is a nice number 2. And my sleeper is Will Fuller on Saturday. He ranks 13th in fantasy points among wide receivers since week 5, averaging over 16 a game. And the Buccaneers have allowed the most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. So in what should be a high-scoring game, Will Fuller could be a nice flex starter this week.
Yeah, like you said, he has been productive since that week 5 installment. I need some receivers who will not see the field. Who are you sitting, Fabs?
I have to. I'm not playing Odell Beckham Jr. I'm just not doing it. He ranks 40th in fantasy points among wide receivers. He has scored fewer than 6 fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games. The last time he played the Ravens, he had 4 points. Can't do it. I just can't start him. Not in championship weekend. Emanuel Sanders, he bit me last week bad because he only had 2 catches in a game that I thought he could explode in against the Atlanta Falcons. And honestly, outside of that 34-point game that he had against New Orleans, he's really done very little since week 10. And of course, you know, the Jalen Ramsey treatment could be a possibility in this game. So Emanuel Sanders is going to be on my bench.
And you told us just the other day, caveat emptor, buyer beware when it comes to picking up those wide receivers on new teams. Because what do they usually do? They usually lay a few stinkers.